Okay, I promise this video will be much shorter than the last one. I noticed as I was posting it up on YouTube that it went on for about an hour. Of course, one could go on and on and on about Paul, so that's not a surprise. And I only glossed over so many different things in that. So I do hope you'll take advantage of reading either the textbook or other books that are available. You can get things on the internet as well. There's at least one website that I was looking at before that was called Why I Love the Apostle Paul. And it's, let me see if I can share my screen here with you. And it's actually where I got the backdrop that I used during that video. You may recognize this picture with the horse that I talked about, and there's Paul. And we know it's Paul because he's got the halo there, and that's another convention that artists will tend to use. But this is from a website called desiringgod.org, and it's one of the articles, Why I Love the Apostle Paul, and it's by a guy named John Piper, and he talks about how Paul talks about Jesus, how Paul does a sort of turnaround, so he has a good conversion story, how he had a high view of God, but it was something that wasn't so far off that people couldn't relate, that Paul was very devoted to his mission, and he was willing to suffer for the faith, which is an important thing. Paul was not perfect, and he exposed his flaws and let people know he could relate to them. You don't have to be perfect to be a Christian. And one of the things he did was he was someone who would put forth himself in service of others. So if you have the chance, read this article. This is a good article for you to read that's there. But one of the things I want to do for us is to look at, in this one, our assignments. So first, let's go back here to our discussion board for Unit 3. It says that some scholars believe when the Apostle Paul appealed to appear before Caesar, so he wouldn't fall into the hands of the Jewish leaders, the Jews, seeking to kill him, that he made a mistake. If he'd only waited, he would have been freed rather than being sent to Rome. We'll read these different passages. This is about 4 chapters or so in the book of Acts. One of the things that happens there is that the people who are in charge in Jerusalem are sort of getting mad at Paul because he sort of, in many ways, betrayed them. They were the ones who sent him off to persecute the Christians, and he comes back as super Christian. So what's going on here? And he, because he was a Roman citizen, and we talked a little bit about that in the other lecture, he could appeal to Rome so that their authority wouldn't be over him. But maybe if he just sort of waited it out rather than appealing to Rome, he would have gotten off and would have been let go. Whereas when he went to Rome, sort of things had changed by the time he got there, and Christians were now being blamed for stuff, and he got into trouble there. So with regards to this particular situation, what do you think of Paul? What do you think of Paul as a Roman? And do look at these particular things and post that up. And one of the things, of course, is be sure also to respond to other people as you're doing that. The other assignment for this week is, let's go back here to your unit report. And your unit report, remember you were a roving reporter for one of your earlier assignments for the Jerusalem paper. Now you're in Athens, and you're looking for the news in Athens, or the word in Athens. And one of the things you're going to do is do a little travel log. So you can look at different passages, different parts in Acts, and these will talk about the different travels that are taking place in terms of the missionary journeys that we see that are being discussed there. If you have a Bible that has a map in the back, you can also use that to sort of trace your way around in the different things. But you know, when you're doing this, what you're going to want, of course, is to do the sort of the who, what, why, when, all of these kinds of questions. As it says here, use traditional reporting practices: who, what, when, where, why. and what was happening. In some places that Paul would go, he'd be welcomed. In some places he would go, the synagogue would say no, but other people would say yes. Some places he would go, they'd say, oh, nope, no way, you're out of here. So highlight those, look at those different kinds of things. This is expected to be about two pages, 500 words. So it says cite 2 other sources. So again, like I showed you with that Why I Love the Apostle Paul site, look for different sites online and help yourself. It says Wikipedia can't be used for a source. Here's the thing about Wikipedia. If you go to Wikipedia, and let me see if I can actually open a new tab here, wikipedia.org. So I never know quite what it's pulling up when I'm typing in different kinds of things, or why it's doing that kind of stuff. Sometimes I look in the search box and it's like, where did that come from? So you never know. But let's look at Apostle Paul here. And it takes us to Paul the Apostle rather than Apostle Paul. If you go all the way down, here's how I use Wikipedia. If you go all the way down to the bottom of the page, because it's not necessarily that there are bad things in this, it's just they're often unverified things. But if you go all the way back down past citations and all of that sort of stuff, you have a bibliography. These bibliographical references here are usually good to use. So you can go through any of these. Notice how many there are. And then we have external links. And we have works by or about the Paul the Apostle in the World Cat. We have the Catholic Encyclopedia. We have St. Paul in Our Time at the BBC. We have Paul's Missions from the PBS Frontline series. This would probably be a good one to use for this particular assignment. So when we look at these different things that are here, this one, Why Paul Went West, Differences Between the Jewish Diaspora. So Biblical Archaeology Review. We talked about the diaspora in one of the lectures that's there. So that would be a good one to use. So there are all sorts of external links that can take you to somewhat more verifiable information along the way. And then of course, all of these bibliographical references here, which probably include some of the books that I have held up for you that are related to what's happening with him. So again, I invite you to take a look at those things and do work on your week 3 assignments. And I will see you in week 4.